we saw helicopters, and I was wondering what's going on. Turns out there was a terror attack in the middle of Sweden, in the city center of Stockholm, closer to their parliament building. And a man in a truck had driven into a busy street with bars and hair salon, and then he killed, I can't remember how many people died, but imagine, that was my first impression of Sweden. Hello again, and welcome to Ala Nation. I'm your host, Kate. Now, this is the first, we had the introduction episode, but yeah, so we continue with the story. Where were we when I had a co-host? Anyway, so today I feel like talking about where it all started. When I went to Sweden. Why did I move to Sweden? To be honest, I don't know. Yeah, everyone who moves abroad has this big story. Oh, I moved, I don't know, I got a scholarship, blah blah blah. It's not me. Let's just say I think I had gotten to a point in my career where I wasn't quite satisfied, or rather, let's say I was bored. And normal people, when they're bored, they don't leave the country. Normal people change jobs, look for a new challenge, more realistic things. But yeah, I had an ex, a European ex. Through him, I had met some journalists from Sweden, or rather a newspaper from Sweden that I was writing for. I think I wrote for them from 2015, so like 2 years before I even moved. After 2 years, it sounded like a good opportunity. So when I moved, I honestly, I didn't even struggle to fill in my paperwork. I think at that point, Sweden was still soft on their immigration policy, and so that happened quite fast. I remember filling in the paperwork and forgetting about it, because remember, I have a job of a journalist, so it's not like I am desperately waiting for something. And I think sometimes when you're desperately looking for something, that's when things don't really work out. I don't know about your experience, but yeah, that's how I usually feel like. So I did the paperwork at the beginning, or towards the end of, at the beginning of 2016, and forgot about it. Sometime in August, I get an appointment to the embassy, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I went to the embassy. I didn't think, it still hasn't clocked what I'm doing, And so I think it was October, I got accepted. Like I was told to go and pick up my residency card. And that's when I was like, oh shit, what did I do? And so I got the residency card, and now this is where I developed cold feet, because I was like, what am I doing? So I never told anyone, because I needed time to think about it. So October, November, December, haven't said anything to anyone, but at some point I was like, I will have to tell someone. So I think it was about February where I weighed my decision. I was like, I'll still continue writing for this Swedish newspaper, and maybe one day I will even write for one of those big international newspapers. I had big dreams, or rather I was trying to comfort myself. So that's when I told someone. I told a few of my friends, and my parents. I came out to, but red flags in that relationship, and I had no business living or being in a relationship with that person. That was red. They were redder than blood. Those flags were really red and very big. You know, every red flag I see is normally very small because it's an emoji. But mine was a whole post with a flag. So replace your country's flag with my red flag. That's how big the red flags were. But you know, young and naive. I don't know. I think because I'm a very okay, I am logic now, but then I used to be positive. You know, there's some positivity. There is positivity, and then there's toxic positivity. Like, you're so positive, you even control how you expect the other person is gonna morph into. But yeah, so moved to Sweden, continued writing for this newspaper. No, wait, I think we've skipped a lot. Yeah. So I told my family that I was moving, and I made the big move. I will never forget. I left my country on Kenya. I left on April 6th. Left on April 6th. It was quite an interesting journey because I don't know, for some reason I imagined wherever I'm moving to, I won't have shoes and clothes. So I packed all my clothes. I had 3 suitcases, 3, full of clothes, second-hand clothes. Clothes from China. I don't know. They have H&M, but yeah, I was very attached to my clothes. And one thing, because I was moving for the first time, I remember I never researched. So I packed my high heel boots to a snowing country. Who does that? Like, anyway, yeah. In fact, people in Sweden have to get a thin sole that's a bit zigzag, so that you don't slide on ice. But who is Kate? Kate brought her high heels to Sweden. And I remember the first day I landed, actually landed in Stockholm, in Ireland. And unfortunately, I was, like, my first day wasn't that exciting because I remember driving from the airport, we saw helicopters, and I was wondering what's going on. Turns out there was a terror attack in the middle of Sweden, in the city center of Stockholm, closer to their parliament building. And a man in a truck had driven into a busy street with bars and hair salon, and then he killed, I can't remember how many people died, but imagine, that was my first impression of Sweden. Here I am, coming from a country that's already struggling with terror attacks. We had a lot of interference because of our neighbors. Unfortunately, the instability in Somalia really caught up with us, and sometimes we find that we're even victims because we have diplomatic relations, maybe with Israel, the US, or something like that. So we were collateral damage, and by the time I was leaving Kenya, terror attacks had become kind of part of our day-to-day life. Like, we were very aware of it. And now imagine, I leave Kenya, land to Sweden, and that's the first thing I face. Boy. So yeah, I was received in a cold, dark, wet and mysterious country with a terror attack, and it was scary. I remember, actually, because I still had good relations with media houses in my country, I took pictures. I had my camera, took pictures, sent them back to the media house I used to work for, and I had a byline. don't remember what happened. I think it took 2 years to find the terrorist. Shit. And one thing I realized about Sweden the next day when I was, because in Kenya, if something like that happens and they know the suspect, his face will be splashed on the newspaper, and they'll tell us his ethnic background and all that. But in Sweden, it was so different, which was very shocking for me, because now they never said his ethnicity, they never said anything, because they're trying. It makes sense. They're trying to prevent what do you call this? Stereotyping based on ethnical background. So yeah, that was my brief journey and my first day in Sweden. Do you have similar stories? How was your first day abroad? Or how do you picture your first day abroad for those watching from a native country? Let me know in the comment section. And until then, see you on the next episode of Story Time on Friday. But in the meantime, don't forget to check out other segments which are motivated abroad, or Monday is for motivation, and Wednesday is for how to, basic guides and tips. Until then, see you and take care of yourselves. Thank you.